The headlines of this hour on VTV News. National Assembly discusses 2025 Supervision Program. Later on, QUANG Border Guard Force takes strong actions against IUU fishing. In our world news, North Korea launches flying objects.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good afternoon. It is currently 3 p.m. local time and you're tuning in to 30 minutes of VTV News. I'm Lin Lei with the latest updates. Continuing its 7th session, the National Assembly discussed the Supervision Program for 2025 on Thursday morning. Additionally, the Assembly deliberated on developing laws and ordinances for 2025 and adjustments to laws and ordinances being developed for 2024.
National Assembly deputies praised the effectiveness of the Assembly's supervision. They cited practical impacts in areas such as promoting thrift, combating wastefulness, and overseeing national target programs. Some deputies suggested clarifying the outcomes of voters' petitions.
After reviewing the report on the resolution of voters' petitions from the 6th session, I am concerned. While the response rate to voters has reached 99.7%, only 4.3% of the petitions have been fully resolved. I recommend that the National Assembly Standing Committee and relevant agencies focus on resolving specific cases.
Concerning the 2025 plan, deputies urged the National Assembly to prioritize the supervision of policies and laws related to environmental protection. They also recommended that the National Assembly Standing Committee oversee the implementation of policies and laws regarding the development and utilization of human resources.
Many individuals and waste generators still lack clarity on waste classification, payment methods based on quantity, and segregated waste collection. Regulations on standard norms and unit prices for waste collection and treatment are insufficient. Supreme supervision is needed to address these issues and implement timely solutions.
Climate change hasn't been adequately addressed during the supervision process. I support the inclusion of environmental monitoring in supreme supervision.
The National Assembly also deliberated on the 2025 Law and Ordinance Building Program and adjusted the 2024 Law and Ordinance Building Program.
On Thursday morning, an international conference was held to discuss minimizing the toxic effect of dioxin chemicals left after the war on the Vietnamese population and environment. The Department of Military Science and the Standing Office of Steering Committee 701 organized the event. At the conference, experts shared presentations on the effects of dioxin on humans and the results of cooperation and support for victims, as well as the results of dioxin research in various locations, the application and testing of the technology, and the development of dioxin treatment technology and solutions to monitor projects on dioxin chemical treatment in Vietnam. Experts also recommended relevant ministries and branches continue researching and monitoring toxic chemicals and dioxin treatment activities in Vietnam. Despite global uncertainties, Vietnam remains an attractive destination for foreign investors. However, foreign direct investment or FDI in some key sectors such as agriculture and pharmaceuticals remains modest. Foreign investors suggest removing obstacles to facilitate investment in these sectors in Vietnam.
This agricultural enterprise has been operating in the Vietnamese market since 2014. It considers Vietnam a promising market due to its large population and its potential in export and high-tech agriculture. However, this business believes there are still some barriers to foreign investors in this sector.
So license approvals that currently are relatively challenging. High-skilled labor right now is quite difficult to find in the agricultural sector, and actually the labor pool is also shrinking there. Rental of land and water usage is also can also be exempted. The question only is, okay, how do you, as a foreign company, can make sure that you are entitled to those rights? Yeah, and that's, I think there's a lack of transparency there.
In recent years, the agricultural sector has accounted for less than 1% of the total FDI capital in Vietnam. In comparison, the world average is about 3%. Foreign investment in another billion-dollar sector, pharmaceuticals, accounts for only about 1.3%. Meanwhile, global biopharmaceutical companies are expected to invest more than $1,000 billion in research and development activities from 2020 to 2030.
Vietnam's big population and aging society will attract pharmaceutical investment from Japan to Vietnam, but still not yet the level of US or Europe and China. Vietnam needs stable and abundant electricity and water to attract those big capital investments industries.
The increasingly fierce race to attract FDI requires Vietnam to develop its competitive advantages to attract investors in these potential fields.
By implementing these high-tech solutions and also data and artificial intelligence solutions, the market will change a lot, and the demand for labor, let's say, will change. We have to invest a lot to train them. It will also require the government to facilitate that. Very important to clarify the frameworks, to do very good baseline studies together with the industry, and based on that set realistic goals.
Vietnam aims to reach $25 billion in registered FDI capital in the agricultural sector by 2030. Meanwhile, by 2045, the pharmaceutical industry is expected to contribute more than $20 billion to Vietnam's GDP. FDI enterprises anticipate that bottlenecks will be removed, enabling them to confidently invest and expand operations in Vietnam to tap into the market's great potential.
In the first 5 months of this year, there were 7 products with export turnover of over $5 billion, accounting for more than 65% of the country's total export turnover. These are electronics, computers and components, phones and components, machinery, equipment, tools and spare parts, textiles, footwear, wood and wood products, transport vehicles and spare parts. The U.S. has maintained its position as Vietnam's largest export market since the beginning of the year, with an estimated turnover of $44 billion, followed by China and the EU. In the past 5 months, Vietnam has exported nearly 4.2 million tons of rice, achieving a turnover of nearly $2.7 billion, an increase of nearly 15% in volume and over 38% in value. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development stated that Vietnam aims to export between 7.5 and 8 million tons of rice this year. In the Mekong Delta, the country's rice basket, rice exports have shown positive trends.
Food demand has increased sharply in many countries. Utilizing this along with its available advantages, Vietnam's rice exports have continuously increased in both output and value.
Since late 2023, rice exports have shown many positive signs, notably with prices reaching new levels.
The opportunity to expand Vietnamese rice exports look promising. Vietnamese rice currently dominates more than 80% of the Philippines' import. Since the beginning of this year, the Philippines has already consumed 1 million tons of Vietnamese rice, which is expected to exceed 4 million tons by the end of the year.
Global rice market prices rose due to India's ban on exports despite the country being the largest rice exporter. This trend is expected to persist as climate change-induced weather conditions hamper food production amidst rising global food demand.
The world's top rice exporter, India has restricted and banned rice exports since last year. This presents an opportunity for Vietnam to negotiate orders and boost exports.
The current surge in rice exports is positive. Businesses emphasize the need for improved production links with farmers to ensure sustainable export growth.
Many types of agricultural products and fruits have recently reached their harvest season. Therefore, many distribution channels in Ho Chi Minh City are heavily promoting the consumption of local products. This marketing not only contributes to stabilizing market prices, but also supports farmers in selling agricultural products and provides economical shopping opportunities for consumers.
This retailer has signed a contract with Bắc Giang province to sell more than 300 tons of early ripening lychees. The first consignment will be transported immediately to supermarket distribution systems nationwide.
We are offering very special promotions to attract more customers to our supermarkets.
Commitments are in place to purchase regional fruits such as durian, mangosteen, avocado, mango, or watermelon, and sell them at preferential prices to consumers. The ratio of Vietnamese products is being maintained at more than 90%. To support Vietnamese agricultural products, 6 retail supermarkets in Ho Chi Minh City cooperated in stocking agricultural products.
We hope to raise Vietnamese products to international standards while retaining traditional features, especially local specialities.
Have recently been promoting local agricultural products to a large number of customers across the country by signing agreements with provincial departments of industry and trade. Therefore, they can prevent the good season loss of value phenomenon.
The first 2 tons of Vietnamese lychees arrived at Charles de Gaulle airports in Paris, France on May the 28th and have hit the supermarket shelves here. That is the first batch of this year's Global Gap approved Thanh Hao lychees to be exported to Europe by air. That is also the first time a shipment has gone from Hanoi to Paris via Vietnam Airlines direct flight, ensuring maximum preservation of the lychee's quality and flavor. This year, the French company ACEM plans to import about 10 tons of fresh lychees to meet high country's demand. Coming up next on VTV News. Quảng Border Guard Force takes strong actions against IUU fishing. And later on, international visitors to Vietnam skyrocket. Now moving on to other important updates, the Vietnam People's Navy, the working group of the Vietnam Fatherland Front's Central Committee, representatives of the Fatherland Front of provinces and cities, along with several agencies and units, recently visited soldiers on the Trường Sa archipelago. Many technology and environmental experts also participated in the trip to find solutions for developing the marine economy and promoting the Greening Trường Sa program. Delegates also engaged in incense offerings, tree planting, and cultural exchanges, and presented gifts totaling over $129,000 to officers, soldiers, and people on the archipelago and platforms. These gifts are intended to improve the material and spiritual life of officers, soldiers, and civilians on the islands. Quảng Ngãi and 28 other coastal provinces and cities have joined forces to fight illegal, unreported, and unregulated IUU fishing. The Border Guard loudspeaker strategy is creating daily changes in the awareness and behavior of the province's fishing fleet. More in the following story.
On the roads, in the alleys, in the boat anchorage and fishing ports of Pho Thạch Ward, Đức Phổ Village, Quảng Ngãi Province, Border Guard soldiers carrying speakers on motorbikes broadcast information about legal regulations combating illegal IUU fishing. This has helped many fishing boat crews hear grabs and strictly complied with catch regulations.
We now fully understand the state's regulation and how to enforce them to remove the EC's yellow card. Otherwise, the squid of fish cannot be sold or exported.
The model is compactly equipped to go to every corner, alley and residential area. Over time, we will fully convey the legal content to the fishermen.
In addition to strengthening inspection and strict supervision of vessels going to the sea, the border guard of Quảng province deploys various means of promoting legal fishing activities to the fishing fleet.
The border guard gave me this keychain. If there is any problem, I can tell the authorities. I can call the authorities hotline.
The most important thing is to inform people about the content of the action program on combating IUU. Therefore, they understand and strictly comply with the law. We must both educate and inspect combat IUU fishing.
Quảng province has over 4,200 fishing boats registered in the National Fisheries Database. Fishing vessels of 50 meters or more are closely monitored through the Fisheries Monitoring System, which alerts the authorities to regulation violations and loss of connection with fishing vessels while they are at sea.
5 earthquakes were recorded on Wednesday in Kon Tum, Yên Bái, and Phú Yên provinces. The earthquake that occurred on Wednesday night in Tuy Hòa City, Phú Yên province, and Wednesday afternoon in Lục Yên district, Yên Bái province, both has a magnitude of 3.5, with many reported experiencing shaking. Kon Plong district, Kon Tum province, also recorded 2 earthquakes on Wednesday. In the past 2 weeks, Vietnam has recorded 6 earthquakes in Điện Biên, Yên Bái, Ninh Bình, Nghệ An, Kon Tum, and Phú Yên provinces. The Institute of Geophysics will continue to monitor earthquake developments in these areas. Nearly 7.6 million international visitors have visited Vietnam in the first 5 months of this year, an increase of nearly 65% over the same period last year, exceeding pre-COVID pandemic levels. That is thanks to favorable visa policies and tourism promotions. In May alone, the number of international visitors reached nearly 1.4 million, a 1.5 times jump over the same period last year. The increased number of tourists also drove up the revenue of accommodation and food services in the first 5 months of this year by more than 15% over the same period, estimated at over $11.6 billion. Localities with double-digit increases in revenue of this sector includes Khánh Hòa, Quảng Ninh, Đà Nẵng, Hải Phòng, Hà Nội, and Cần Thơ. Bao Chốc, a small village in the town of Phước Dân, Ninh Thuận province, is internationally known for pottery production. The village of the Cham people is one of the oldest pottery villages in Southeast Asia. Little is known about the traditional methods of the production process, how locals understand the genres of production, and the belief systems that have been integral to the process for the past several hundred years.
Late afternoon in Bao Chốc village, locals are returning home on their bullock carts after a day collecting clay. Transporting the clay home is not easy as the process takes a lot of time and hard work. The Cham people here often collect clay at Nu Lang field. The natural characteristics of this clay source is extraordinary in that it has high degree of adhesion. Furthermore, the supply never runs low. Without this clay source, locals wouldn't have been able to build and maintain the good reputation for their village as it is today.
After the clay is collected, the supply regenerates after nearly a year. That's why we have taken the clay from this source for centuries.
Before the rice growing season, villagers utilize the clay at Nu Lang field as a raw material for their pottery making process. To retrieve the clay, they dig holes 0.5 to 0.7 meter deep. The holes will be filled after several months, and rice can be planted in these holes.
This clay source is a gift from God, so generations of the Cham people have utilized the clay here. If you collect sand in a place, the sand dune will become smaller. But at Nu Lang field, the clay source always regenerates no matter how much clay we take.
The stories of the clay swords in Baochuk village have amazed numerous tourists who came here to enjoy the Cham people's traditional craft with unique skills and techniques passed down through generations.
I was very surprised that it's the first time I have learned that the clay swords here can regenerate.
Many people believe that Cham people's traditional pottery methods have consistently depended on natural forces, relying upon the proper balance of wind, sun, and rain. Therefore, Baochuk products characterize the life, culture, and beliefs of locals.
Coming up next in our world news, North Korea launches flying objects. And later on, the RMB becomes the fourth most active currency for global payments. Now moving on to our world news, the South Korean military said North Korea launched about 10 short-range ballistic missiles into the East Sea of the Korean peninsula on Thursday morning. South Korea's Joint Chief of Staff said it had detected flying objects believed to be ballistic missiles launched from the Sunan area in Pyongyang at 6:14 a.m. local time. The South Korean military has increased close monitoring of all relevant developments, continues to analyze information about the launch, and shares information related to North Korea's ballistic missiles with U.S. and Japanese officials. North Korea has not officially confirmed information about the missile launches. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida condemned North Korea's new launches and said that Pyongyang had violated relevant United Nations resolutions. Israeli military spokesperson Daniel Hagari announced on Wednesday that the country's armed forces have gained tactical control of the entire Philadelphia corridor along the border between the Gaza Strip and Egypt. The statement was made in the wake of Israel ignoring the International Court of Justice ban and continuing its attacks on Rafah, south of Gaza, where more than 1 million Palestinians took refuge. The Philadelphia corridor is a buffer zone established under the 1979 Egypt-Israel peace treaty terms. Egypt had repeatedly warned Israel that controlling the Philadelphia corridor would violate the 1979 peace treaty. According to the China Financial Policy Report 2024, SWIFT data shows that the Chinese yuan's share of global payments reached 4.6% as of November last year, a record high, and surpassing the Japanese yen to become the fourth most used payment currency worldwide. In addition to trade exchange between China and other countries, the yuan has begun to be used as a third-party currency. Foreign investors hold more than 10,000 billion yuan, equivalent to over 1,400 billion US dollars in domestic assets. 5 Chinese banks are currently among the world's 29 leading banks. Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, and Hong Kong, China are among the top 20 financial centers globally. Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities held a ceremony on Tuesday to mark the completion of multi-year renovations to the grand 14th century mosque in historic Cairo. It is one of the most important monuments from the Mamluk period and a prominent Cairo landmark. More in the following story.
Al-Maridani, chief of police and married to a daughter of the powerful Mamluk Sultan al-Nasir Muhammad, built the mosque in 1340 AD. It was a thoroughfare connecting Cairo's citadel to the walled city's southern gate. The mosque was designed with a central courtyard surrounded by vaulted spaces on each end. There is also a decorative mosaic floor beneath the carpet.
The Al-Maridani Mosque is considered one of the unique mosques in Islamic architecture. It is of great architectural importance and shows the development of Islamic architecture. It is also considered an important tourist attraction, especially since it's part of the tourist route that the Aga Khan Foundation has adopted in coordination with the Supreme Council of Antiquities and has now been put into operation.
The mosque's main entrance is decorated with ornate inscriptions and fine marble. Its columns were salvaged from older buildings during construction.
I used mechanical cleaning for the undecorated parts. This was done accurately using scalpels and light sandpaper until we reached the senior seeing today.
The mosque's exterior and minaret were renovated in the first phase, which began in 2018 and was completed in 2021, while the second phase, which lasted 18 months, focused on the interior.
Up next, let's have a look at the weather forecast for Vietnam and other locations in the world. And that is all that we have for this hour on VTV News. To rewatch our program, you can visit our website or YouTube channel or download a mobile app VTVgo for more. Thank you for watching and goodbye for now.